What if one of the most controversial media figures in America just pulled back the curtain on a story the palace never wanted discussed, a story involving whispered agreements, reputational damage control, and two royal names rarely mentioned in the same sentence without discomfort? According to claims made by Megyn Kelly, a secret understanding allegedly existed between Meghan Markle and Prince Andrew, and the implications of that claim have reignited debate across both sides of the Atlantic. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. Megyn Kelly, speaking in her role as a political commentator and media analyst, framed the situation not as a proven conspiracy, but as a troubling pattern that she argues deserves public scrutiny. In her commentary, Kelly alleged that behind closed doors, informal arrangements may have been discussed or implied between Meghan Markle and Prince Andrew during a period when both were facing intense public and institutional pressure. Kelly emphasized that these claims are based on interpretation, timing, and behavior, rather than on any publicly released documents confirming such an agreement. According to Kelly's analysis, the alleged understanding must be viewed within the broader context of royal crisis management. At the time in question, Prince Andrew was already engulfed in scandal, facing mounting public outrage over his associations and his disastrous media appearances. Simultaneously, Meghan Markle was navigating growing tension with the royal family, battling relentless press scrutiny, and, as Kelly argues, searching for leverage and protection within a rigid institutional system. Kelly suggested that royal households have historically relied on quiet negotiations, private assurances, and mutual silences to limit damage. She claims that Meghan, as a new and increasingly embattled royal figure, would have quickly learned how these unspoken rules functioned. Kelly's assertion is not that a written contract existed, but that an understanding may have been formed where silence, timing, or selective narratives benefited both parties at critical moments. One of the central points Kelly raised involved timing. She highlighted moments when media focus appeared to shift abruptly, with coverage of Prince Andrew's controversies cooling just as attention intensified around Meghan and Prince Harry's departure from royal life. Kelly stopped short of stating causation but argued that such shifts often prompt legitimate questions in media analysis, especially when institutional interests overlap. Kelly also focused on Meghan's public positioning during that period. She noted that Meghan spoke openly about mistreatment, lack of protection, and systemic failures within the monarchy, yet never publicly referenced Prince Andrew's situation, even when discussions about institutional accountability were dominating headlines. Kelly characterized this silence as notable, arguing that selective advocacy can sometimes reflect strategic considerations rather than coincidence. From Kelly's perspective, this alleged unspoken agreement would not require personal closeness or coordination between Meghan and Andrew. Instead, she framed it as parallel self-preservation within a system designed to manage optics. According to Kelly, both individuals represented serious reputational risks to the monarchy, and the palace's priority would have been containment rather than transparency. Kelly also drew attention to palace media strategy, suggesting that narratives are often shaped not by direct lies but by omission and emphasis. She claimed that when one scandal dominates coverage, another can be temporarily deprioritized, buying time and reducing cumulative damage. In her view, Meghan's highly publicized grievances and eventual exit may have unintentionally or indirectly served as a smokescreen during one of Prince Andrew's most vulnerable periods. It is important to note that no official evidence has been produced confirming any agreement between Meghan Markle and Prince Andrew. Buckingham Palace has made no statements acknowledging such claims, and representatives for both individuals have previously denied engaging in inappropriate conduct or secret dealings. Kelly herself acknowledged that her commentary was interpretive, rooted in media patterns rather than documentary proof. Still, Kelly argued that media consumers should not dismiss the possibility of strategic silence simply because it lacks paperwork. She pointed to historical precedents where institutions relied on informal understandings, mutual discretion, and narrative redirection to survive crises. In her analysis, the royal family is particularly adept at this approach, having refined it over centuries. Kelly further argued that Meghan's later interviews, particularly those criticizing royal protection structures, indirectly reinforced the idea that some members were shielded while others were exposed. Kelly interpreted this as an implicit contrast that raised questions without directly naming names. She suggested that by not confronting Andrew publicly, Meghan avoided triggering institutional backlash while still benefiting from broader criticism of the system. Critics of Kelly's claims have pushed back strongly, accusing her of speculation and of unfairly linking two individuals without concrete evidence. Media analysts have cautioned that correlation does not equal coordination, and that Meghan Markle's silence on Andrew may simply reflect legal advice, personal boundaries, or a focus on her own experiences rather than those of other royals. Supporters of Kelly, however, argue that questioning power structures is not defamation but accountability. They claim that when public figures operate within closed systems, journalists and commentators have a responsibility to examine patterns, incentives, and outcomes, even when definitive proof remains inaccessible. Kelly also addressed the public's role in sustaining institutional secrecy. She argued that outrage is often selective, driven by emotional storytelling rather than systemic analysis. In her view, the public was encouraged to see royal conflicts as personal dramas rather than as manifestations of deeper structural behavior. By framing Meghan's departure as a love story and Andrew's scandal as an isolated disgrace, Kelly claimed the palace avoided a unified reckoning. The alleged agreement, as Kelly framed it, ultimately represents a larger conversation about silence, power, and image management rather than about individual guilt or innocence. She stressed that her commentary should be understood as critique of systems, not as a legal accusation against Meghan Markle or Prince Andrew. In response to the renewed attention generated by Kelly's remarks, royal watchers have revisited timelines, press strategies, and official statements from that period. While no definitive conclusions have emerged, the discussion has reopened questions about who is protected, who is sacrificed, and how narratives are shaped behind palace walls. This debate also underscores a broader shift in public expectations. Where once royal discretion was accepted as tradition, audiences now demand transparency, consistency, and accountability. Kelly argued that as long as secrecy governs institutional responses, speculation will persist, filling the vacuum left by unanswered questions. As of now, the alleged secret agreement remains exactly that, an allegation rooted in interpretation rather than proof.